He showed his Secret Service badge, and the cop laughed. Seconds later, that same cop was in handcuffs. He'd only planned to sit there for 10 minutes. That was it. Just 10 minutes to breathe, answer some emails, and finish the lukewarm coffee he picked up from a gas station on Charlotte Pike. It wasn't even good coffee, but the spot was quiet, the weather was mild, and the parking lot of this sleepy Nashville strip mall felt like a perfect pause between obligations. Jarvis Dalton, 38, looked every bit the part. Sharp gray suit, pale blue shirt, a black Secret Service lapel pin that he'd momentarily tucked away while working. His black Chevy Tahoe was parked neatly in front of an old shoe repair shop that hadn't opened in years. The engine was off, the air was still. He scrolled through his inbox on his work phone with one hand while sipping his coffee with the other. Most of the emails were bureaucratic clutter, scheduling changes, briefing reports, and an invitation to some mandatory sensitivity training next month. He chuckled quietly at that last one. Jarvis was used to pressure. He'd been with the U.S. Secret Service for nearly a decade, based in D.C., but today's assignment had brought him down to Tennessee to coordinate security for a visiting foreign trade official. Nothing glamorous, no movie-style chase scenes or rooftop standoffs, just checklists, communication drills, and long stretches of waiting. He didn't mind. It paid well, and he believed in the job. But today, something felt slightly off. A patrol car had eased into the lot, slowly circling once before settling directly behind Jarvis's vehicle, blocking him in, not aggressively, but deliberately. Jarvis noticed it, but didn't think much of it at first. Maybe the officer was just doing a check, or bored, or maybe... He lowered his phone, just in case. The patrol car idled, then the driver's door creaked open. A tall, heavy-set white man in a dark blue uniform stepped out. His hand rested on his hip, fingers grazing the holster. The name tag read, D. Langley. Jarvis looked up in the rearview mirror. No smile, no wave, no casual body language. Langley walked straight toward the driver's side window like he already had something to prove. Jarvis pressed the button and cracked his window halfway. "Afternoon, officer. Something I can help you with?" Langley didn't answer. Instead, he put his hand firmly on the edge of the window and peered inside. "Yeah, I need you to take your hands off that phone. Now." Jarvis blinked. "I'm sorry." "Hands on the wheel." "What's going on?" Langley's voice sharpened. "I said hands on the wheel. Now." Jarvis slowly set the phone on the passenger seat and placed both hands on the steering wheel, open-palmed. His heart rate hadn't jumped yet, but something was creeping into the back of his mind. Not fear, exactly. Not yet. But awareness. The kind that comes from living long enough to know that things can go sideways, quickly, and for no good reason. "I'm a federal agent," Jarvis said calmly. "I'm working security detail. My badge is in my jacket." Langley smirked. "Oh, sure it is." But Jarvis could already tell. Langley wasn't looking for answers. He was looking for a target. Langley didn't flinch, didn't ask for ID, didn't radio in the stop. He just stood there, half bent at the waist, eyes darting between Jarvis's face and his hands, like he was waiting for the smallest excuse to escalate. Jarvis kept his palms still on the wheel. His mind began calculating. Not out of fear, but habit. Height of the officer, roughly 6'3". Weight, maybe 240, leaning on 250. Angle of the weapon, still holstered but ready. Tone of voice, clipped, challenging. Eyes, looking for dominance, not answers. Jarvis had trained for this, but never expected to live it. Not like this. "Sir," he said, keeping his voice measured. "Again, I'm with the U.S. Secret Service. I'm on official duty. I'm not armed. You can check with Metro PD if you..." "Shut your mouth," Langley snapped. "You don't get to bark orders here." Jarvis narrowed his eyes slightly but stayed silent. He felt the weight of something shifting, not just in the conversation, but in the atmosphere. Like Langley wanted a show, and Jarvis had already been cast as the villain before he spoke a word. The officer's hand moved. Click. The sound of the retention strap on Langley's holster coming undone wasn't loud, but it was unmistakable. A simple sound that carried a not-so-simple threat. Jarvis didn't move. He just looked the officer straight in the eye. "I'm reaching slowly," he said. "Left breast pocket. Badge wallet." Langley didn't blink. "Don't move, or I swear to God." "You want to radio it in first?" Jarvis asked. "Verify who I am?" Langley's smirk returned. the kind of smirk that told you he'd already made up his mind. Nope, I don't need to. I know exactly what this is. Jarvis blinked. What is? You parked out here, in a suit, in a blacked-out Tahoe. You think throwing some badge in my face is going to scare me off? He tapped on the window with his knuckle. This ain't DC, pal. Down here, we don't play make-believe. The words rolled off Langley's tongue like he'd rehearsed them, like he'd said things like that before and gotten away with it. Jarvis exhaled through his nose. You're making a mistake. Langley leaned in, eyes unblinking. No, you are. And then, without another word, he drew his weapon, pointed it, directly at Jarvis, through the window. But Jarvis had been calm for as long as he could, and now he knew this could get him killed. Time didn't slow down, it sharpened. The barrel of the gun was inches from Jarvis's temple, separated only by a half-lowered window. The black steel reflected sunlight in a way that made it feel colder than it probably was, and behind it, Langley's eyes, wild, focused. Like he wasn't aiming at a man, but a silhouette in a training exercise. Jarvis didn't flinch. He didn't give him that satisfaction. He kept his voice flat, controlled. You're pointing a gun at a federal agent. You sure you want to do that? Langley grinned like it was a joke. Federal agent, right. Everybody's something nowadays. He adjusted his grip on the gun. I've seen guys with fake FBI jackets, fake marshal IDs, even fake military plates. You ain't special. I have credentials, Jarvis said, still calm but louder now, making sure the words carried outside the car. In my inside jacket pocket, left side, I'm reaching slow. Langley cocked his head. I told you not to move. You also didn't ask for my license, or why I'm here, or who I am. You just came in hot, hoping I'd panic. Langley didn't move the gun, but something in his jaw tightened. He was losing control of the moment, and he knew it. Then came the voice. From off to the side, maybe 20 feet away. Hey, what's going on here? It was a woman, white, mid-50s by the sound of her voice, southern accent. She'd just exited a laundromat next to the strip mall. She was holding a bag of folded clothes frozen halfway to her car. Langley barked without turning. Stay back, ma'am. He's not cooperating. That got Jarvis's attention. He looked at her, then back at the officer. Not cooperating? He said slowly. I haven't moved. I've done nothing but talk. Langley ignored him. Another person approached, younger, maybe early 30s. Bearded, tattoos on both arms, phone already recording. What's he doing? The man called out. Why you got a gun on him, man? He didn't even get out the car. Langley shifted slightly, adjusting his stance, but the gun never left its aim. Sir, please stop interfering, Langley snapped. This man is under suspicion. For what? Jarvis said, raising his voice now. Sitting in my car? Langley gritted his teeth. That's it, he muttered. He pulled the driver's door open with his free hand, reaching in with the gun still aimed. Jarvis didn't move. He just said the words one more time, louder, clearer. I'm a U.S. Secret Service agent. My badge is inside my jacket. Left side. There was silence. Langley's chest heaved. And then he laughed. Low and breathy at first, then louder. Secret Service, he repeated, shaking his head. Man, that's the best one I've heard all year. He stepped back half a foot and gestured with the gun. Go ahead, show me this badge then. Let's see it. Jarvis moved slow, deliberate, 2 fingers only. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a black leather wallet, opened it flat, held it through the window. The light hit the gold, the lettering, the seal, United States Secret Service. Langley's smirk died. The woman by the laundromat gasped. The bearded guy muttered, "Oh, damn," and zoomed in with his camera. Jarvis held it steady. No more talking, he said. Call your supervisor right now. But Langley didn't reach for his radio. He reached for control, and that's when the situation flipped, fast. Langley didn't lower the weapon, not even after staring straight at a federal badge, not even as 2 civilians filmed from opposite ends of the parking lot, not even with his hand still trembling, whether from nerves or pride, Jarvis couldn't tell. But the look in his eyes had changed, slightly. No longer smug, just calculating. Jarvis kept his tone steady, but firmer now. You need to step back, and you need to call it in, right now. Langley glanced down at the badge again like he wasn't sure if he should believe it or rip it from Jarvis's hands. Then he shook his head. You could have printed that yesterday. The crowd was growing. A woman in scrubs had stopped across the lot, holding her keys in one hand, phone in the other. A teenage boy on a bike had pulled up to the edge of the sidewalk, mouth slightly open. Jarvis didn't move. There are people recording you right now. Langley looked up at the sky like that mattered less than it did. So what? They record everything. You people love pulling out phones like it's a shield. You people, Jarvis repeated, his voice low. Langley caught himself, just for a second. I meant civilians. You didn't. Langley shifted uncomfortably. The silence around them thickened. No one said a word. Even the bearded guy with the tattoos had stopped narrating into his phone. Everyone was just waiting to see what Langley would do next. Then, out of nowhere, a deep rumble. A black SUV, big, quiet engine, government plates. It turned into the lot from the street with precision. No hesitation, no wasted movement, and pulled up directly behind Langley's cruiser. Langley turned to look, frowned, took half a step back. Jarvis didn't blink. That's my team. The SUV doors opened in unison. 2 agents stepped out, both in plain black suits, earpieces, visible shoulder holsters. One was a woman, late 40s, black, short hair. The other was a white guy, built like a linebacker, eyes already locked on Langley. The woman spoke first, calm, deadly calm. Lower your weapon. Langley spun around, startled, pointing his gun just slightly off-center between the 2 agents. This man didn't identify himself. I had reason to believe. The larger agent raised a hand, firm and open. Put the weapon down. Langley's eyes darted from one face to another, then back to Jarvis, then to the crowd. He looked like a man trapped in a decision he no longer controlled. Slowly, he lowered the gun, but the damage had already been done, and now it was too late to hide from it. The agents didn't walk. They moved with purpose. The woman, Agent Royce, was already at Langley's side before he could holster his weapon. You're being disarmed, she said, flat and direct. Officer, place your weapon on the ground, now. Langley stammered. Wait, this is a misunderstanding. The big agent cut him off. You're aiming a firearm at a federally credentialed agent, in public, surrounded by witnesses. There's no misunderstanding here. Langley looked around like someone might come rushing to his defense. Nobody did. Phones were up. Eyes were locked on him. And Jarvis, still in his car, hadn't said a word since his team arrived. He didn't need to. Langley's hand trembled as he lowered the gun and gently set it on the pavement. Royce stepped in, removed his belt-mounted radio and sidearm. The second agent pulled out cuffs. Turn around. What? You can't cuff me. I'm law enforcement. Royce didn't blink. And you're about to learn what happens when you threaten a federal agent with a firearm. Turn around. Langley hesitated. For the first time, there was no confidence in his voice. This is crazy, he mumbled. This can't be real. Click. The cuffs locked around his wrists with 2 sharp clacks. Clean, tight, final. Jarvis finally opened his door and stepped out. Adjusted his jacket, straightened his tie. I'm all right, he said, loud enough for the bystanders to hear. Let's keep this professional. Royce glanced at him, a tiny nod of acknowledgement. Langley stared at the ground, eyes wide. You think I'm the bad guy here? He muttered, half to himself. I was trying to be careful. Thought he was a threat. Royce leaned closer, voice just above a whisper. You treated him like a threat because of the way he looks. You never even asked his name. Langley swallowed. You're lucky all you're getting today is handcuffed. The crowd hadn't moved. Some were still filming, others just frozen. The tension hadn't gone away. It had only shifted. Jarvis looked over at the tattooed guy with the phone. Did you catch everything? He nodded. From when he pulled up, yeah, got the whole thing. Jarvis didn't smile. He just nodded. Hold on to it. Somebody might ask for that later. But even with the cuffs on Langley, the question hanging in the air was heavier than anything that had been said. What would have happened if that badge hadn't come out in time? The next 2 hours moved fast, like the whole city had suddenly caught wind of what happened. Metro PD showed up first, then 2 unmarked cars. One of them had Langley's supervisor, a man with thinning hair and a red face who looked like he wanted to disappear the moment he saw the cuffs. He tried to smooth it over. Let's not make a spectacle out of this, all right? We'll take it from here. Agent Royce folded her arms. No, you won't. The other federal agent, Hobbs, handed over a copy of Jarvis's credentials and incident report. Your officer just pointed a weapon at a member of the United States Secret Service without cause or protocol, on camera, in broad daylight. This is above your pay grade now. The supervisor tried to speak. Hobbs cut him off. If we weren't here in time, your guy might have shot a federal agent. What kind of mess would that be on the evening news? That shut him up. Langley was led away in the back of a different cruiser. He didn't argue, didn't yell. He just sat there staring ahead, like his mind had finally caught up to the reality of what he'd done. The crowd eventually thinned. People went back to their lives. Phones were still in hands, thumbs flying over screens, footage already making its way online. Jarvis leaned against his Tahoe, arms crossed, taking it all in. A woman from earlier, Nurse Scrubs, phone still recording, walked over. Hey, I'm glad you're okay. That could have gone really bad. Yeah, he said. It almost did. She paused. You handled it better than I would have. Jarvis looked at her, voice quiet. I didn't have a choice. She nodded, gave a small wave, and walked off. Hobbs walked over and offered Jarvis a bottle of water. You good? Jarvis took it, twisted the cap. I'm fine, just tired. They stood there for a second in silence. Then Hobbs asked, You want to file internal? We'll back it. Jarvis thought about it, thought about the weight of it. Not just the paperwork, the attention, the media. Then he looked back at the empty lot, the cameras, the people who'd seen what really happened. Yeah, he said, we file it. Because if he didn't, who would? And because people needed to know. A suit, a badge, and a title don't protect you from being seen as a threat. Not when your skin makes the wrong people nervous. And that's the truth most folks still don't want to talk about. But if we don't talk about it, nothing changes. There are men and women in this country who wake up every day and put on a badge to protect and serve with dignity. But there are also people who wear that uniform and use it as a shield to project fear, not uphold the law. What happened to Jarvis Dalton wasn't a rare mistake. It was a reflection of how fast suspicion turns into danger when bias goes unchecked. And this time, it nearly cost a man his life. If a federal badge doesn't buy you safety, imagine what happens to the rest of us who don't carry one. If you've ever witnessed this kind of injustice, or worse, stayed silent about it, it's time to speak up. Share this story. Tell someone. Demand accountability. Because silence is never neutral.